We talked about this already, but the actual yield is the amount you actually get experimentally. There's no way for you to calculate that unless I give you percent yield and theoretical yield, in case you could solve for actual yield. Or if you actually run the experiment yourself and measure how much you actually get, which is what you'll be doing in Lab 6 to calculate, to get an actual yield when you actually do a reaction. Or it will have to be given to you. So on an exam, if I'm asking you about the actual yield, you have to have these two to get it. Or I have to give you the actual yield, one or the other. Theoretical yield can be found if I happen to give you the actual yield and the percent yield, right? I could give you any two of those three variables in this formula, and you could calculate the third one. But theoretical yield is usually calculated as we did on the previous example, right? So usually you calculate that from starting amounts of reactants. In the lab that we're going to do, I want you to create a certain amount of product. So assuming that you calculate the correct amounts of reactants to put in to make that product, the amount of product that I ask you to make should be the theoretical yield, right? Because if you put in the right amount of reactants to make that amount of product, your theoretical yield would be the maximum amount you can make, which would be the amount you're shooting for. So then the percent yield, as we said, it's a judge of your success for the reaction. And when you do the reaction, you'll calculate your percent yield, and most of you should have an over 90% yield because the reaction you're going to run is a pretty straightforward reaction. And if you're in a pharmaceutical area as a chemist or and you're looking at making a new product that you're going to sell, even in, it could be any chemical industry, you're going to synthesize some new thing. It's all about making money, so you have to have a good percent yield. If you spend a lot of money on ingredients and you put that in, you only make a little bit of product, and when you sell that you don't get much money for it, then it's not a viable situation. So there's a huge amount of research going on in those industries to improve yields, to get reactions to be more complete. What are the conditions we need to get the reaction to be completed in a reasonable period of time, right? We need the reactants to move around and collide, so we have to provide the means for them to collide together, the energy that they might need to collide, overcome their initial attractions. We put them together, and we might need some heat to speed the process up. So there's a lot of conditions you can use to control. It's hard to get a good percent yield. You know, a lot of reactions just don't run to a very complete state. So there are tricks you can use to improve that, but that's a measure of your success, and it's really important in the industry.